All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
You always amuse me. Today's the 25th, Friday the 25th. Thank you for changing the lights. It's brighter inside than it is outside.
Yeah, it's pretty gloomy this morning.
Yeah.
Still lovely.
It was raining this morning on the way to the office. So anyway, we'll start off. I have a couple of thanks. I wanted to thank Public Works crews. As you know, this Sunday is the Big Sur International Marathon, and every year they call it Marathon Flats. Our Public Works crews takes a pile of wood chips and spreads them. It's kind of a boggy area usually. And so thanks to Public Works again for doing a beautiful job. It looks great, it smells better, the whole thing. So thank you to Public Works for that. And then I wanted to thank everyone who took part in the mock city council meeting. The students did a great job, the executive team did a great job, council did a good job. And the students were phenomenal.
It was fun.
Every year it gets a little better.
Yeah, I will say, every year it's great. This class specifically, the young adults up here and the people presenting, but specifically the council members, they had such good questions. I was really impressed. I mean, it was more serious this time. It's always fun, and there was some laughing this time as well, which is great. But they took it really seriously. I appreciated that.
Yeah, and thanks to Miss Powers, she does a great job organizing it every year, and we learn something every year. So I think next year what we'll do is we'll have, just with the team, we talked about this yesterday, just with the team will be the acting department heads and acting city council, et cetera, but have a small group meeting beforehand, not the entire class. But
Paul did write me. He's actually gonna throw police jet skis in his budget because that was a big hit with the council. So apparently we'll be getting 2 police jet skis.
And he wanted a helicopter every year for the last couple of years. We've had to cut that out of the budget. So sorry, Paul. Sorry. And then the last thanks I have is for the Friends of Mission Trail Nature Preserve. They're pulling. Councilmember Felito said they're pulling poison hemlock, and I was thinking to myself, is there any hemlock that's not poisonous? Do you know the answer to that?
I don't.
Yeah, so thank you to Friends for pulling. This is the year it's time of year it's growing, our growing season. So they're out there with gloves on pulling poison hemlock. I guess it's a native though, but it's still poisonous. That's what I got, buddy.
Okay. Real quickly, this weekend, Earth Day celebration, Devendorf Park, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Go check it out. Lots of activities for everybody. There'll be volunteer groups around and the whole deal. So come check that out, please.
Yeah. And we combined Earth Day and Arbor Day this year into one grand event. So
there'll be some ribbon cuttings for some of the projects that were done this year. So please go enjoy that. The big thing is just to give everyone a heads up, and we'll put a link in the Friday letter today. Our wireless ordinance that was adopted last year by our city is finally made its way onto the city, the Coastal Commission's agenda. Will be on the May 8th agenda. That meeting is taking place at Half Moon Bay. I got a couple of really good questions from Nancy Toomey, so I figured I'd share some of those responses. One of the questions was, have there been similar ordinances like this approved in our region? I'm proud to say that the Coastal Commission staff told me that our ordinance is by far the most protective of the coastal resources that they've seen in our region, which is, it's a kudos to the city staff, to the residents that got involved, to the Planning Commission. So it's a great ordinance. So that's good. There haven't actually been that many wireless ordinances in the last 5 years in our region, maybe like 3.
Yeah.
The most recent was Santa Cruz, in the last year. And all of those had to be modified by the Coastal Commission because they weren't protective enough. So ours is being recommended for approval with no changes, meaning we got it right.
And that in itself is somewhat of a miracle.
Yeah.
And I say that in a genteel way, but it's really phenomenal that the Coastal Commission staff didn't recommend a series or litany of questions of changes.
Another question was, what's the status of the litigation with Verizon? It's still on hold. It was placed on hold with an agreement between the city and Verizon so we could finish up our regulations because they wanted to apply under the new regulations, most of which are already in place. If you remember, we adopted all the application standards. Those were in place effectively. This is just the ordinance part. If you want to...
And then as a reminder, we have not yet received any... since we adopted the ordinance, we've not received any applications from wireless telecommunications providers.
Almost true. We had one that was approved last year, but it was on top of Dowd Arcade. It's what's called an existing facilities request. Still, it was an application. It wasn't, but it looks like a smokestack.
Good clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you want to speak at the meeting on May 8th, you can go to Half Moon Bay, certainly. But if you want to speak remotely, the Coastal Commission does ask for people to send in speaker requests ahead of time, and we'll link that in today's Friday letter as well, or you can go to beautiful Half Moon Bay and just fill out a speaker slip there in person. Nancy asked the question, you know, what do we think is going to happen? We can never assume approval. The staff is recommending approval as is, as I said. We also connected our wireless attorney with the Coastal Commission's attorney to make sure they understood that our ordinance doesn't violate any FCC wireless regulations. That was part of the conversation, if you remember, last year with the Planning Commission. And so we feel like we're in really good shape. If I was a betting person, I think we're doing okay, but you can never assume.
Definitely,
But-
yeah. So we're talking about who from our team is going to go up as well, just take part, and then hopefully, if there are carriers that have opposition to our ordinance as drafted, they'll also make an appearance. And
Yeah, and we'll get any correspondences from the Coastal Commission
Yeah,
staff ahead
that
of
they
time, so we
receive,
know what we're dealing with. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Good.
So that's
Great
May 8th, Half Moon Bay.
Yep, Central Coast. Yep. Central
That's all
Coast
I
Region.
got.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good weekend.
You too, and
Take good care.